Good afternoon, everyone. John Paul Brandt here to talk about my research. And the subject of my research is a Dutch theologian named Jacob Arminius, who lived from 1560 to 1609. As a young man, in his earlier studies, he was sent to Geneva to study under the great Calvinist scholar Theodore Beza. And here he started developing ideas challenging Calvin's idea of predestination, saying that perhaps people could get to heaven through faith and good works, as opposed to the idea in the Calvinist doctrine that everyone was damned to hell because of the sins of Adam and only a few elect would get into heaven. In spite of these challenges to the Calvinist doctrine, his professors thought highly of enough of him to give him a theological chair in the University of Leiden after the death of Junius. Later on, he became a minister in the Dutch Reformed Church. Now, I came across a secondary article by Carl Banks titled Arminius and the Reformation. And here Carl Banks suggests that looking at Arminius through the lens of the 17th century is wrong. We should perhaps put him back in the period around 1590 when great changes and theological changes were taking place because of the Reformation, particularly with Lutherans coming in from the lower countries to the Dutch Republic. Banks suggested that there's no organic connection between Arminianism and Arminius. And this is where I got the idea of post hoc fallacy. So I decided to look back at primary sources, which I haven't done much to this point. And I found the Arminian magazine for year 1778, published by Wesley, where in his opening introduction, he argues against Calvin's predestination, saying that God willeth all men to be saved by speaking the truth in love, and not only 1 in 10. And also, this pointed me towards a sketch of the life of Arminius, which would be an extract from his funeral oration done by Peter Bertius. And also, it gives an account of the Synod of Dort, whereby 13 remonstrants or followers or of Arminius were tried at the Synod of Dort, like 9 years after his death. So I decided to find these 5 articles of remonstrance, which I did in several different forms. I found a readable copy under ChristianityToday.com, and I looked through these 5 articles of remonstrance, compared it to the Calvinist doctrine of predestination to give myself some background. And later on, I actually found the sketch of the life of Arminius, which was published by Wheeler in Providence, Rhode Island in 1793, but it actually is the funeral oration given in 1609 by Peter Bertius, the man of questionable character, which we can talk about later. But actually, I found the document, and I'm quite happy about that. And this is a positive sketch of Arminius. Now, opposed to that, I found an attack on Arminius from 1836 called Argument on the Arminian Controversy by David Scott, a minister in the Reformed Presbyterian Church in Albany, New York, who apparently took the minutes of the Synod. And it's a scathing attack on Arminius, saying that he is a disgrace to the Presbyterian Church, although he admits, though Arminius did not distinctly carry out his opinions on all these points to the extent here mentioned, he embraced the main principles from which others natively flow, guilt by association. So we have that. Now we go back to the secondary source, Carl Bang, Arminius and the Reformation. um, where he talks about um, the idea that Arminians should be judged in the year 1560. And he said there are 6 points that have been used by historians over the years to judge Arminius, which most of them are false. And he says these historians have used post hoc fallacy to completely mischaracterize Arminius over the years. Following that, I found an article by Gerald Goodwin where titled "The Myth of Arminian Calvinism in 18th Century New England," in which I was interested to see how the idea of Arminianism actually caught on in New England, if it did. But he says that the Calvinists secretly practiced Arminianism while pretending to be Calvinists. And this is basically Perry Miller's idea, saying basically that the New England pastors were secretly Arminian, who claimed the title of Calvinists. And then I found an article by Januzzi which refutes that claim that the New England ministers were secret um, Armenians. And he points to a mass uprising in 1717 to 1724 in New England when um, the, the rector of Yale College, Timothy Cutler, closed the commencement by saying, "Let all the people say amen," which was a reference to the hated common prayer practiced in the High Church of England. He says that the struggle here, led by Timothy Cutler, was really a struggle between Episcopal rule and Calvinist and Episcopalian rule. Now, anyway, he renounced his Calvinist ordination. Eventually, he renounced his Calvinist ordination and came back to New England to preach Arminianism, while many others were tried for heresy. But all in all, High Church Anglicanism was defeated, and the Church of England and the Calvinist tradition was preserved all the way through the war. So that's Jacob Arminius, the Dutch Dutch minister who was accused of trampling the Calvinist doctrine of predestination. I didn't come back to reach the point where he wasn't guilty of what he was accused of. He was just trying to make adjustments to lessen the harshness of Calvinist doctrine. And we learn along the way that Arminianism didn't actually transverse across the ocean to New England, but according to Januzzi, let all the people say amen, it was a homegrown theology which Timothy Cutler and his followers, the apostates of Yale College, actually developed by reading books in the Yale and Harvard libraries. Thank you.